All right, welcome to the podcast. I have my two good friends, actually. I've got Alex, the CTO and co-founder of Superposition, and I've got Ivan, the head of Superposition, the head of product, I should say. Now, real quick, I know you guys have a testnet coming out, so can you give us a little bit of a background as to, one, what is Superposition, and what is the testnet you guys are working on?
Yeah, for sure. What's it called? I'll give my interpretation, and then afterwards, you can add anything that's missing. But basically, Superposition is the blockchain that actually pays you to use it. While working in Fluidity Labs, which is the parent company of Superposition, we were really focused on utility and actually driving order flow to different applications and ecosystems. While releasing on Solana, Ethereum, and eventually finding some really good PMF on Arbitrum, we realized that we could actually drive order flow and actually incentivize users to make transactions and to actually explore the surrounding ecosystems while being rewarded. So, while tinkering around with protocols like Serum and shared liquidity, and also with Fluidity's, core primitive, which is a stable coin that pays you for every single transaction that you do, we said, okay, what if I could actually create these primitives on the layer level itself? And that's the idea of Superposition. So basically, it's a blockchain that rewards you for every single transaction. It does not matter if you're minting, it does not matter if you're swapping, or if you're deploying a smart contract for that matter. You can actually get rewarded for people utilizing your smart contract. So really, we want to sort of create a growth native chain that rewards you for every single transaction that you do. And we built some DeFi primitives into it, which actually I can hand over the mic to Alex because it's an aggregator order book, and it's fantastic. And he's been doing a lot of good work with the Arbitrum stylus, which is also part of our main narrative that we're trying to sell because it's amazing.
Yeah. So, we want to build a sort of like a central liquidity hub and then take some of our lessons that we've learned with building Fluidity and building that payment for order flow stack. And we wanted to take that and then solve the problem that a lot of blockchains experience, which is, you have a blockchain will come out, you'll have a couple of early players that will come in and they'll insert themselves and then they will become entrenched. And while they're entrenched, it doesn't matter who comes in, what they're doing, unless they're doing something where they come in with like a pretty heavy response. Maybe they've got a lot of liquidity coming in. And we wanted to take that idea that we've come up with, the technology for the payment for order flow and build a hub which anyone can permissionlessly tap into to supply their protocol with liquidity in a permissionless way. So that's something that we've been really working on. That's not currently a test net, but that's something that, we've been driving pretty heavily. And we've come up with something called a long tail, which is a V3 style AMM, which is composable with this new order book aggregator that we've been coming up with. And we've just been working on that. It's been pretty good so far. And, we're very thankful to the community for some of the metrics that we've sort of had so far. So, yeah.
Yeah. And shout out, shout out to the Off-Chain Labs team for being so supportive as well. And also deploying and shipping technology so fast. The V3 AMM that Alex, so humbly talked about is the cheapest AMM across any Arbitrum V3 AMM. And we've seen on our testing about 3 to 5 times cheaper gas fees and over 10 times cheaper memory usage. So it's it's certainly a very interesting technology, and we're very thankful and very privileged to be some of the first people that are taking advantage of that.
Absolutely. Let's go through an exercise that we used to do at BlackRock all the time, and we'll call it the life of a transaction. Let's imagine we're a handsome, funny, charismatic, and humble podcaster that has a few stable coins to their name. Talk to me a little bit about what this person would do when they get to your platform. Like, let's talk through the life of a transaction as you see it.
The life of a transaction. So could you say that it starts from an existing ecosystem like Ethereum, let's say?
Sure. Let's say we got a MetaMask wallet where we've got some money on Arbitrum, we've got some on Optimism. We're big L2 people.
Fantastic. No, awesome. If it's an L2, it's pretty simple. Right now we're on testnet, so all you got to do is use one of the many bridges that support Superposition. So currently we've integrated Hyperlane, integrated a Super Bridge, and right now we're just kind of finalizing the specs for this native bridge that provides yield whenever you like. So one of the core primitives of Superposition is that you get paid to use the chain. You also get paid to just hold assets on the chain itself. So there's active yield and passive yield, right? Anyway, getting too complex. right now you'd be bridging the transaction from one of these L2s onto Superposition with the variety of tooling that exists. And from there's a few existing protocols that have been deployed by ourselves as well as our friends across the ecosystem and partners. And from a user's perspective, all they'll need to do is either go to our hub and on our website and check out the app. But the user's transaction, once it's on the actual L3 itself on Superposition, it's pretty quick. We're currently experiencing even though we're experiencing currently around 20 transactions per second, our block confirmation time is sub 1 second. From a user's perspective, it's almost like you're using a Web2 platform. Right now, if anyone is able to just deploy anything that they like, whether they're using Third Web as an assisting, coding, coding development, assister, or if they're just going to be utilizing their regular tooling that they do through like Hardhat or Truffle. Maybe Alex can add a little bit more context as well.
Sure. I mean, when you're going out and you're developing with what we've built and, with our chain, we're an Arbitrum orbit chain. So any of the tools that you might use on Arbitrum are actually something you can easily use in Superposition. And that even includes the tooling for stylus. I mean, I like to think that we're more of a stylus native chain than a classic EVM compatible chain, because, we just have this native suite of different things that we've built. That's all available, for stylus. But yeah, any of the existing tools that you have, no problem. You can plug in, no issue. It's all just very seamless and easy to use.
And pardon, Jax, from a user's perspective, whenever they bridge to the platform itself, and as soon as they start doing their first swap or their first transaction, as we release the V2 of the testnet and the eventual drum roll mainnet, they will start earning rewards seamlessly, in the background as they make the transactions and utilize the chain.
Yeah, so we've bridged the assets over. Now we're happy. We've got money here. We're earning some native yield, right, on Superposition. Then talk to us a little bit about like what we can do now. We've got a user with stable coins there, and then we'll also, after we're done with this exercise, we'll approach it from the developer perspective and what they can do. But let's talk a little bit about like now that we have money on the chain itself, what can we do?
So I can actually bring up a list of applications, but currently we have a few native ones that we've deployed. One of them is called Longtail that Alex talked about, the first V3 model stylus based AMM. It's extremely fast, very efficient, and pays you yield every single time that you make a swap or a transaction. We also have this really cool pro mode, and it's going to be tying up with the aggregator that Alex talked about. So very soon, anyone that's actually deploying on the chain will be able to participate in that sort of aggregator of sorts. In case you've already traded your stable coins onto Catbucks, which is like a meme coin on the chain, or SPN, which is our native gas token on the testnet, you can do a lot of things. One of them is mint your first meow domain. So that would be an ENS but .meow. So jax.meow or in whatever .meow, and actually utilize that on your platform if you want to actually send transactions to your friends, or if you just want to flex your NFT, you can do that. One of the things that we did recently with our infamous meme creator was we actually deployed 100,350 NFT collectibles for the NFT testnet, which got minted out in less than a week and a half, I think. We had some really cool quests that people were able to do on the Discord and social media to actually promote the chain, but also have a sense of community and familiarize themselves with the terminology and with the culture that we're building. So after you've minted your Catbucks and you've minted your NFT and you've now you have your meow domain, so it's very easy for your friends and the family to send all the different types of coins, like whether it be SPN, native USDC, fluid USDC, or whatever. You can do cool things like participate in interact quests, or you can actually donate off-chain to hundreds of charities. Actually, right now we only have about 50 charities, but in the future we'll be adding more. So we've basically created this thing called per.stream, and it's our take on an existing community of cat streamers that basically stream cats stranded and stray cats in China, and they have these little stream box that every single time that you donate real life money, which currently is firewalled. So you need to have a Chinese phone number to actually do that. It actually gives gives food to these cats. So we said, okay, what if we could actually, play around with things like account abstraction, with, for the permissionless nature of blockchain, and what if we could actually allow people to use their testnet tokens that they just swapped to donate to these cats, and we created associated charities with these different cat channels. So far, we've already donated 2 batches. So over, I believe, $600 or $1,000 that have been donated to, I think, about 5 or 10 different charities. So it's certainly a really cool way for us to sort of integrate the current famous meta of like a cookie clicker with the permissionless nature of blockchains, and like make it fun, make it free, and teach users that participating in crypto doesn't necessarily need to be you connecting your wallet. It can literally just be mobile, phone number, social media. After that, just spamming the click button and actually sending these on-chain tokens, which currently don't have any value because they're testnet, but actually do have value because you're literally supporting a real-world charity. Also, shout out to the folks at Third Web. They actually deployed an on-chain RPG called Web3 Heroes on Superposition. So, similarly to the account abstraction story that we just spoke about, you can literally play this kind of like Diablo clone and earn NFTs and earn rewards just for playing that. And all the transactions are settled in the background on Superposition. So these are, just a few of the things that a user can do once they bridge and make that first initial swap on Longtail. But we have many different partners that are still developing applications, whether they be NFT-fi, social-fi, or DeFi. We're going to be more than happy to talk a little bit more about that as the interview unfolds.
Absolutely. And now we've got a good perspective on what it's like for a user to be in there. Now let's pretend we have a podcaster that's a non-practicing developer. Maybe they formerly worked at a FANG company. Talk to us a little bit about like the technical aspects of like what can builders expect on Superposition?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say first-class stylus support. This is something that we're very passionate about, and we're going to be providing our community of developers with some tools, as well as some account abstraction libraries that they can use to simplify development, as well as to quickly tap into that hub of liquidity. We want to capture that developer experience with Rust. We want to take that and then leverage that with stylus, so that stylus developers can move very quickly on our chain where they might struggle on other chains. And, I think developers would really benefit from the low, block time, as well as the low gas, just because of, the fact that this is something where, that's very important to us. And gradually, as we roll out that hub for liquidity, we expect that developers will they can start thinking, hey, how do I actually tune out of having to find like a market maker, having to find someone to actually jump in and then, manage that liquidity for me. Instead, I can just come in and then just leverage what's already there. And it's just a Superposition native feature. So,
and we mentioned this idea a few times. Talk to us a little bit about Arbitrum stylus, because people may not have heard this term before. So talk to them a little bit about like what stylus is enabling and then how you guys are using it specifically.
Sure. So the way that we see ourselves is we're sort of like the Arbitrum stylus native orbit chain. Stylus is a new technology for building EVM plus smart contracts that are actually composable with the existing EVM using a plethora of different languages, including C, C++, and Rust. And right now it's just Rust and C, but in the future, you better use all these other languages to work with it, because behind the scenes, it's just WASM. It compiles down a WASM, and then that WASM runs on Arbitrum and runs on the orbit chain. And it's a really fantastic technology in that it's so well optimized, and you benefit from this existing optimization pipeline that you otherwise wouldn't have had access to. That, it's like Ivan said, in a lot of cases, it can be almost 10 times cheaper in terms of the way that we understand gas. And it's so much cheaper that they actually came up with a metric called INC, which is actually worth looking at, where, instead of gas, you pay with INC, because it's a lot cheaper, and it's just thanks to the fantastic engineering work, I would say, of off-chain labs. So Yeah, just because, working with these things, it can be safer, it can be easier to reason about, and, it's just something we're really plugged into, if that makes sense.
And for people listening, they're like, okay, now we can write in different languages. So does this mean that like now Solana developers that are used to programming in Rust can now program on Arbitrum? Like, talk to us a little bit about like what this opens up.
Sure. So the account model of Solana, where you have like a sort of like you allocate like a page and then you kind of like jump into that and use that as your underlying storage backend. That to a lot of developers can be, if you're coming in from like a Unix kind of background, it's something that's, it's accessible from that perspective. For a lot of developers that are kind of coming in from like I would say like a legacy background, as maybe developers that aren't super familiar with those concepts, or they can come and plug in to Stylus and they'll find it that it's I think in a lot of cases a lot more intuitive. And it's exactly like you said, Solana programmers could come over and work on the EVM with no friction with the existing, ecosystem. And, Arbitrum is, I don't know where it sits relative to Solana right now, but, Arbitrum in my mind has always been the hub of DeFi. So, you think that DeFi and then that liquidity and that, excitement would kind of incentivize Solana people to come over. And in some cases, they can leverage a lot of the business logic of what they've already written, for example, just because, obviously the support for the Rust toolchain and so hopefully accessible for them.
Yeah, and now that we've talked a little bit about like, okay, the developer experience, the user experience, I want to double back to the initial question, talking about liquidity and the utility directly in the chain, because I think now that people have like a baseline on how everything's built, talk to us a little bit about this liquidity and utility that you guys are building in there. And I'll direct that to Ian.
Yeah,
I think Ivan should pick this up.
Yeah. So the utility and liquidity that users and developers can expect on chain. Sure. So one of the problems that we were trying to solve with Superposition in the beginning is the code start problem. Meaning that you'd have, and also the kingmaker problem where you kind of have these initial applications that come into these chains and aggregate all the liquidity, or they obtain all the POL, and as a result, any new idea that sort of comes in, they would need to either be 10 times or 100 times better in order for them to sort of capture any small portion of the market. So from our perspective, we want to sort of encourage ecosystems to flourish, even when they have an idea that might be only slightly better, but that sort of competitive edge might be actually enough to attract users, and we wanted to sort of get users to actually participate on the liquidity aspect of things and be able to aggregate things through that aggregation liquidity hub. That's also part of it, but when it comes to the utility side of things, it's something quite novel. Lots of chains are coming out currently with this kind of bridge to earn, and you can earn these gold point. I'm not saying who, but gold points, right? But in our perspective, that's kind of like the existing, the current DeFi ecosystem. But when it comes to utility, it kind of becomes a bit abstract of what can users kind of expect. They either expecting to farm a specific airdrop, or sometimes developers might not necessarily have a good incentive to actually participate on this chain outside of engaging in grants or engaging in sort of these primitives that have been around for a while, trying to attract developers. So from our perspective, we wanted to sort of expand the tooling and to get developers actually wanting to experiment with different applications that promote high throughput or promote new types of utility use cases on chain, whether it be this cool SocialFi NFT that kind of grows as a Tamagotchi for users interaction, or whether it be other cool ideas that incentivize users to interact and sort of share their experience around. The more transactions, the more interactions that you have, the more yield is eventually distributed on a normal curve, and the more that it's actually distributed to developers and users alike. So it's currently a really cool new meta that we're exploring when it comes to utility, and we want to make the tooling available to any developer that deploys on Superposition, but we want to make it very useful for new users that either are not crypto native, to have a new reason to try and explore new applications on Superposition, or whether it be your cool DeFi super user from different chains to actually want to try and use the new applications that we're developing. Because as you might know, right now the ecosystem is slowly becoming more crowded. So we have to sort of create these new tools of novel ideas to try and attract users to try out different ecosystem projects. So yeah, that's, it really came from those realms of trying to attract people to use different ecosystems, trying to educate them through like a rewarding experience that kind of happens in the background and it's abstracted away, but also trying to attract liquidity and trying to make sure that new protocols that are developing on our chain do have a fighting chance, while also supporting bigger protocols from coming in and deploying on the chain as well.
So let's elaborate on these incentives for developers to build on Superposition. So let's say an Aave comes in, and obviously these are like a whale applications. Talk to them about the kind of the incentive system that exists for like these existing whales, and then also exist for like, let's say I want to make the Jax yield farming protocol on there, and I'm a young upstart.
For sure. I can start and Alex can continue a little bit, but basically there's different types of, I guess, a money market, for instance, like Aave, their yield optimization that we could actually retain and give out to users from the sort of like stable yield and active yield. That could be a really great example of us utilizing like a money market on our chain. When it comes to actually deploying on Stylus and any type of like, savings, I'm going to leave that up to questions for Alex. But when it comes to a more sort of like utilitarian type of activity, like let's just say Jax swap, right? Or like, Jax NFT fi, where users are sort of coming in and actually utilizing it on a daily basis, pushing transactions on chain. You might, and let's just say that, Jax swap is a whale application, right? It already has existing users, and it's kind of like making users want to come and try out our chain. But simultaneously, whenever users do transact Jax fi on Superposition now, rather than Jax fi on Arbitrum, let's say, they're actually earning extra incentives for interacting with Jax fi and the underlying, cool meme coins or like just different protocols that are interacting with Jax fi. NFT fi, Jax NFT in this scenario might be a smaller protocol. And as a result, they might have a starting, community that is enjoying sort of like the early yield of just transacting on Superposition. But simultaneously, because in our case over here, whenever the tide rises, all the boats rise with it. We are, always promoting different applications, always kind of sitting on AMAs, always exposing cool protocols that are kind of like, newly built on Superposition and might not have the necessary kind of marketing or exposure. So from that perspective, new developers and new people that are actually deploying on the chain might have more incentives just outside from the yield that's kind of being earned. But simultaneously, as I said, the rewards that can be enjoyed by the bigger people are also the rewards that can be enjoyed by the smaller one. But also when it comes to liquidity aggregation, that's where the smaller platforms that might not have a sufficient POL might also be benefiting a lot, particularly when it comes to their innovation.
So going back to the bit about Stylus there, Ivan, if you're a big protocol and you want to come build on Superposition, we'll give you hands-on access to the suite of the tools that we've been building that will hopefully simplify the development for you. Sometimes we work on grants and, we write grants, and sometimes we collaborate with other teams for grants to incentivize protocols to come over. And, just building with Stylus and building with this ecosystem, I think that people will find that it's a lot safer, it's a lot simpler, and it's also a lot more rewarding for developers to build on top of what you've already made in some cases. But because of that composability angle with the existing EVM, if you're a big protocol, you've already built out your product, it's as simple as just deploying. And then if you'd like, you can begin to translate parts of it over if you choose, if you want. If not, that's fine. That Stylus development, stack that people are already leveraging can plug into what you've built, no problem. So.
And one thing that was mentioned earlier, but I don't think I double clicked into it, was about Third Web. So for listeners that are unfamiliar with Third Web, first define what it is and what it enables, and then talk to us a little bit about how you guys are integrating it.
For sure. So Third Web basically is this, giant builder's kit that allows you to take advantage of a few things, whether it is existing, frameworks for smart contracts. Let's just say you want to deploy your first ERC20, or you want to sort of deploy a lending protocol or like a marketplace or whatever, and you want a boilerplate to start with, you can utilize Third Web. But simultaneously, they have these really cool tooling that allows you to sort of integrate payment infrastructure from off-chain to onboard different developers on-chain. And they have their famous Third Web wallet, which allows for lots of account abstraction. whether it is like, paymaster and bundler, or whether it is things like connecting with Discord, Telegram, social media. So they have this really broad toolkit that we've been able to integrate onto the Superposition chain, and we've actually utilized it a couple of times, particularly when it comes to our NFT project. The meme NFT, we actually deployed that through ThirdWeb, the NFT, the entire contract, the NFT, which is really cool. And we've actually integrated the ThirdWeb wallet and the account abstraction, and I believe the feeless transactions, maybe on per.stream. I'm not sure if it was feeless or not. We wanted to sort of like utilize it as a really good use case and sort of study case of how protocols can actually utilize and leverage these tooling, and they might not necessarily know that these tooling exist in the first place. I've talked with very talented people, across the ecosystem, that they are like, oh, I would love to, have this in my project, but I have just so much work to do. Like, I have to really build the actual protocol out itself. At which point even though I'm not an advocate, I do advocate for them to utilize ThirdWeb. And one of the cool things that in our collaboration has allowed us to do is they have startup credits. So if you are a big protocol or a small protocol and you want to deploy on Superposition, we're able to work together on grants, as Alex said, but also we're able to connect you to the ThirdWeb guys and give you about $650 worth of credits for a couple of months for you to get started on using the different tooling, whether it be auth, paymaster, account abstraction, or any of the different backend tools that ThirdWeb allows.
Awesome. So we talked about some exciting features. We talked about Stylus, ThirdWeb, all these interesting things that I know everyone's going to be really excited to build on. Talk to us a little bit about the product roadmap. So what kind of features, developments can the community look forward to from you guys?
For sure, that's a great question. And the first thing, just because we talked about grants earlier, the first thing that I'll just say is that our first official grantee has actually been accepted, and we've talked to them, designed a cool little sort of like roadmap, and it's going to be the guys from Non House or Mini Lago. They're developing this very cool NFT-fi, social-fi project. They're very close with a few folks, including the folks from Scatter Art and all of the Milady projects that came out recently. So we're super excited to sort of like host them on our chain. They're Ethereum native and Ethereum first. Oh, apologies. Yeah, I'm here. It seems like my what's it called? My headphone died. So just give me 1 second, guys.
We can still hear you loud and clear, by the way.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, cool. Let me just get rid of my earbuds. Yeah, so they're developing this really cool social-fi, NFT-fi kind of project that really takes advantage of like the sort of like utility and retention and sort of like user feedback. So that's one of the cool tools that we want, and one of the cool projects that we wanted to sort of convince to build on top of Arbitrum, or on top of Superposition in our case. And them leveraging Stylus is also something that kind of drove the final push towards that grant. So congratulations to them, and we look forward to that as part of the broader roadmap. When it comes to Superposition, I can definitely say that we're pretty close to where we want to be for mainnet. And a few things that come with the mainnet roadmap are things like the active and passive yield. So literally get earn yield, whether it be native SPN yield or external yield, kind of like how you'd imagine an LST works for just bridging or utilizing Superposition. So that's coming very soon. The long tail club backend architecture is coming. So that's something that Alex can talk a little bit about, but it's super exciting. And that as well as the liquidity aggregator architecture, kind of like we spoke earlier, where we want to sort of allow for any protocol to develop on our chain and take advantage of this aggregator, so that your POL might not necessarily matter as much, and everyone is kind of able to take advantage of that aggregator as well as liquidity. Then obviously we have our mainnet chain launch, so that's happening pretty soon. Fingers crossed as things develop. We're going to be running a few social campaigns that we can talk a little bit more when the time comes, right? And we're going to be bridging or I guess redeploying a lot of the existing apps that you've seen and loved on Testnet, whether it be per stream, long tail, Web3 heroes, ThirdWeb's architecture, et cetera, et cetera. They're all coming to mainnet. And, we actually, I'm going to let Alex talk about this, but one of the really cool things as of our recent roadmap is, we're developing this thing called, I won't say the name, but it's going to, you say the name? Okay. Okay. It's a prediction market that is Oracle free. So it's an Oracle free prediction market.
I'll talk about this a little bit. So we've been dumpster diving from the early 2000s, which a lot of people don't realize was a period where there was a lot of corporate interest in prediction markets, internal to organizations as well as external. And we've actually identified the world's most capital efficient prediction market. So this is the first time I think we're talking about this publicly, so you should feel very happy about this, Jax, I hope. And it's frankly, it's an order book free prediction market that doesn't fit the normal kind of design. It's something that we haven't observed that's been implemented on chain unless we've missed it. And it's also one of the first dApps that will be implemented with Stylus, aside from Longtail and our Glob aggregator, and we're really excited about it because big products. They spend a lot of money on market making. They've designed a real incentive structure around this order book design, and we've actually come up with this thing where anyone can plug in and they can actually participate, and we don't have to manage that liquidity. So it's a lot more capital efficient. Because it's more capital efficient, it means the barrier to entry with creating new prediction markets is a lot lower, for example, because you don't have to bootstrap that liquidity flywheel, and that allows us to build more unique derivative products, on top of this, for example. We've also with a unique structure that's built into this that I won't talk about, I think we'll actually get into in the future. So you could actually, say bet on our project's downfall, for example, maybe. I'm not saying you should do that, but you could if you wanted. We're just really excited about it, frankly. We're going to be bringing that to mainnet, best case scenario. And it's like Ivan said, we've also experimented with an element of the design which actually makes it Oracle free. So we've also identified a path to actually building it without an Oracle. It sounds perplexing, but I think when you read a bit about the way that we're doing this, as well as the evolving document that we'll be developing, you'll realize that it's actually possible. So we're really excited about this and excited about seeing how this goes.
And there's some exciting developments on the way, and I know people are going to be very interested in this Oracle-free prediction market. So tell us where people can find you guys online, where they can keep in touch, and just get all the latest news.
For sure. So you can find us on superposition.so. That's our website. That's where you can see all of the testnet stats on our explorers. So, I think 26 million transactions and counting, 2.5 million wallets utilizing it. You can go on x.com, probably Twitter, and go on and let's look up Superposition SO. So that's with the little cat, the Schrodinger's cat image. That's us. You can join our Discord, which we had to change our link, unfortunately, because some things happened. But you can just find it on our website or on our Twitter. We always run activities, as we call them, which are just kind of like community activities. We always have our weekly community call where we try to incentivize users to either build cool art projects that they want to sort of express their their inner cat, inner feline through, or just want to sort of the shit post around on X or whatever. We're super happy. We always incentivize and encourage people to kind of participate, help each other out. I think I mentioned all the channels really.
And then where can they connect with you two personally? Any X accounts you guys have?
You can check me out on X. It's Beige ETH. So BAYGEETH, and I'll put that in the chat here while Ivan talks, and maybe look at this later.
For sure. You can find me on X as well. It's Ivan SN _. So that's just IVAN, capital S, capital N _. And I have the little Tigger profile picture. So that's me.
There you go. Well, if you guys have listened this far, you must really like us all. So give us 5 stars and then get back to building the future of Web3. We'll talk to you all soon.